All right, what's up, guys? It's Andrew with Long Range Gear. Going to be bringing a little bit of a different video to you today. We're not going to be doing something super tech heavy. We're actually going to be discussing clutches. And I wanted to make a video about this because I spend a ton of time in my day-to-day interactions with customers discussing clutch options, what fits their application, and what would pair well with the transmission they're getting from me. So the two big players, obviously, South Bend and Valair. If you call me and ask if a luck clutch or a sax clutch is a good option, I'm gonna flat out tell you no. That's the kind of clutch you put in a truck that you're flipping and you don't care about. um, these are clutches, and really these are the only two clutches that you should be considering if you're going to be using your truck for any length of time, doing anything important, and if you care about reliability and your drivability. There's a few others, such as like Clutch Masters, who make a really high quality product. I think they cater more to the performance and racing application than they do towing. However, a lot of people tow with great success. So look into those guys if you're interested in something that deviates from this standard sort of package. But in front of me, we have the clutch that we're removing and the clutch that we're installing. So what we're removing from this truck, it's a late second gen. This is just a very typical clutch. It's called a South Bend Street Dual. 3250 pressure plate. That's the pound rating, excuse me. And it has, when you call their Street Dual model, it has an organic facing on the outsides of the friction discs and ceramic facings on the inside that face the floater plate. So this clutch is used. It's 15-20,000 miles or whatever. It's still in great shape, but we are going to be replacing it. I did run it through a parts washer to try to clean it up a little bit, so there's some residue. It's not anything wrong with the clutch. Typical pressure plate design. They're both very similar, if not the same. But you'll notice, so here is the friction disc for the South Bend Street Dual. Again, this is a used clutch, but it has organic facings on these little pads on the outsides. And then when you flip it around, it has ceramic facings on the inside. This is a great idea because it gives you kind of a middle ground. Gives you some of the characteristics of a good organic faced clutch and some of the characteristics of a ceramic without the overarching traits of the ones that are completely ceramic are pretty harsh. Completely organic, might not hold enough power. This is a good blending, so I will give it to them for that. It's a great idea. The part where I sort of exit the train is their floater plate design. As you can see, these little bumpers are falling everywhere. This is their old design, but this is the most prevalent design out there. Most clutches that are street duals are going to be like this. So it uses these little plastic bumpers that fit on the ears here to isolate the floater plate from the flywheel. Now, when you depress your clutch pedal, what you're doing is you're pushing these fingers, which rocks there's these fingers go all the way down. It rocks against the spring. It lifts the pressure plate, the actual plate itself, and it basically allows both the friction discs and this floater plate to move away, separate from each other, and they're no longer grabbing. So when you depress the clutch, the flywheel, the pressure or the floater plate, and the pressure plate are all bolted together, and those are spinning at engine RPM. In theory, what should be happening, though, when your clutch is depressed, is your clutch discs, your friction discs, and your input shaft stop spinning. So every time you depress the clutch to make a shift, essentially you're unloading the friction disc. There's no power input, so it allows your synchronizers to do all the work to speed up the gear with the shaft to time your shift. The better that your transmission can do that, the smoother and faster it's going to shift. If there's any drag on these, like if, for example, if your hydraulics aren't throwing far enough, or for whatever reason you're not getting enough throw to remove the pressure plate all the way from the friction discs, there's going to be some input. Your synchronizers are going to have to work harder to synchronize, and that's how you get a rough shift, a delayed shift, slow, notchy, ugly. We don't like that. So the reason I've recently become so passionate about it is because I've repeatedly removed South Bend Street Duals to replace with these Valair clutches. In full disclosure, I'm extremely biased, so biased that I actually recently, after a couple years of doing this, um, I jumped on the Valair train. I am now a Valair dealer because I believe so strongly in their product. This is an excellent clutch for, if you got one, I wouldn't yank it out unless you just already hate it. These have a tendency to either break. These things break apart. You got to call South Bend and order a new set of bumpers for like $40 or whatever, because all these holes are drilled. These ears and tabs will break off. They did come out with a new design. This is the old design. They did come out with a new design that kind of has a plastic fully encapsulating isolator design. It works fine. It's not terribly noisy. It's an improvement over this for sure, but it still kind of has the same effects. When you slide this forward and back, and I'm exaggerating because it's a very small, it's like a fraction of an inch. When you slide this during every clutch actuation, what is isolating is these bumpers dragging on your flywheel. Okay, and that just creates a little bit of movement issue, right? I mean, there's some resistance to moving, so there's resistance to disengagement. That's just my theory on why I think they shift subpar, in my opinion. I know I've driven plenty of trucks with this clutch that shift fine. I'm just saying in a general sort of statement, this is kind of what I've observed. Okay, so these clutches hold a lot. They're reliable. Don't yank one out if you don't hate it. However, this is the clutch right here that has, like, I am a believer. I stand behind them 100%. I've never had anybody call me and say that they don't like this clutch. This is a Valair organic dual disc quiet model. So unlike the street dual disc, and they do make a full organic model of this as well, and a full ceramic, this only comes in full organic or full ceramic. And it comes quiet and non-quiet, but you don't want the non-quiet one unless you're like sled pulling or something like that. So we're going to dive into this one. So you'll notice pressure plate's pretty much the same. The design's kind of universal. So you'll notice this has like a full complement organic facing. So if these plate loads were the same, this has more friction material in contact with the pressure plate and the floater plate. So I'm no doctor, I'm not a scientist, but you don't have to be one of those to realize that this will hold more. If I am correct, the plate load on this is 3250, and the plate load on the quiet organic models is 3400. Very small difference, but with more material and a slight increase in pressure, you're going to hold more. This clutch is rated at 550 horsepower and 1100 foot-pounds of torque. This street dual is rated at 650, but you do have to deal with the ceramic side effects, right? A lot of shuddering or jumping when you're loaded. If you try to back a trailer and, a loaded trailer, it's pretty miserable. Most of you know what I'm talking about. So that's a cool friction disc. I really like it. They're incredibly smooth. But where this thing starts to shine is when we get into this pressure plate here. Things are so damn heavy. So you'll notice this looks a little bit different. So instead of using bumpers or this like metal thing here, the post, this has a shoulder bolt that I think keeps it from moving this direction. But what keeps it from rotating and hitting the flywheel and dragging on the flywheel during articulation is this little metal strap here. This little metal strap here holds this floater plate at a fixed distance between the two, so they will never come in contact. That is the key to making this thing so quiet, and it really is incredibly quiet. Usually when you first get these installed and fired up, the comments you'll hear is, wow, that's so damn quiet, or it sounds like an automatic truck or something like that. The typical rattle is gone. Especially if you pair your transmission with a good fluid, it'll really quiet things down. So these little straps here are great. They really change the game with such a simple design. These shoulder bolts kind of do the same thing as these little posts, pedestal, whatever, do on the South Bend for alignment and stuff. These clutches, and I do really believe that the lack of that drag that, like from these bumpers or whatever on the flywheel is the key to making these things shift so much better. I know we're going from a used clutch to a brand new clutch. and that may have an effect, but I ran this experiment myself. I purchased a brand new street dual, this exact model for my personal truck, and I didn't like it, and the transmission was fresh, you know, with one of my builds. They shift very nicely. They're very high quality. I use very high quality components to make sure that we get a good shift. With the street dual, it just wasn't quite up to par, and all I did was switch. All I did was switch the clutch. And I've ran these before, and I've always had very high opinions of them, but I've never done a back-to-back comparison, so I decided to find out. And sure enough, as soon as I put one of these in, it falls right into first, second, reverse. Like I was telling my wife just earlier, it falls into gear like there's something wrong. With my street dual, I definitely had to fight it pretty often, especially into reverse. I don't know why. I really love these. I sell the crap out of them. I've never had anybody say they didn't like it. I've never had anybody who tows heavy say that they didn't enjoy the experience with it. It's a pretty substantial improvement over anything that contains ceramic. And the owner of Valair has publicly stated that these clutches are underrated. I mean, he agrees with the rating. I'm just saying that they'll hold more than they're rated for. And we've seen it time and time again in real life. That's what I meant. This clutch, again, is an organic. It does come in full ceramic in the Quiet model, but you lose a lot of the smoothness and stuff. I've never ran one of the full ceramic versions that would hold more power, obviously, but you'd have to deal with the nature of ceramics, which is, you know, like what I was mentioning before. If you're doing a lot of towing, it's going to be very jumpy and stuttery and not quite as smooth. If you're like sled pulling and stuff like that, you can get these clutches without the Quiet stuff, the Quiet models. And I actually have one right here. I'll show you. You can keep the camera there. There's actually no dampening on these non-Quiet Valair floater plates. So if you want like a cheap, strong clutch, the non-Quiet version is a great option for you. I think they're like $1,100 or whatever, and they'll hold 650 horsepower. Probably pretty obnoxious. This was low mile and came out just because of the noise. So anyway, I'll go over the contents of this kit. This kit retails for $13.45. If you need to order a clutch, I would be happy to sell you one. I can get these drop shipped right to you for the manufacturer's minimum advertised price requirement. The kit comes with the flywheel, friction disc, the pressure plate, all of the hardware associated, obviously another friction disc. The pressure plate, it'll come with a new throwout, pretty nice little piece. Your flywheel bolts, it'll come bolted together. They're in a pile here. Obviously I removed them. For your pressure plate bolts, it'll come with the nice fork with their special bend that they have determined to work the best. Obviously works very well, but it is different from the South Bend fork. So make sure you use this. You will need to reuse your pivot ball and your pivot ball retainer clip. If you get a transmission from me, you get a new pivot ball in every unit anyway. So you just move your clip over. If you need a clip, let me know. I'll sell you one. Alignment tool as well comes with this bad boy. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward install. There's nothing really different from this. Valair does say in their instructions not to grease the input shaft. So what's very common is that guys will over grease their input shaft like quite a bit. We've seen it in here where it's gotten so bad that, you know, within a few miles the grease is flung out all over your friction discs. There's no more grip anymore. You're burning a brand new clutch. It's not going to be covered under anybody's warranty. I don't care who you get your clutch from. And you're going to be paying somebody to put a new clutch in. So no grease on the input shafts. Clean your input shaft really good. One thing that we have noticed with installing of any clutch, not just a Valair, but even a South Bend or even one of those Lux or whatever, if you file the sharp edges off the teeth on the inside of the hub, that works really well to help it move a little bit, because these sharp edges have to ride on your input shaft. It'll help it move a little bit smoother, quicker, easier, I guess. I don't know, but it's helpful. I think that covers pretty much everything. If you are doing a lot of towing and a lot of working, you want an organic model. If you're doing a lot of hood rat stuff, playing around, you will want either a ceramic combination or a full ceramic. Valair also offers a street triple that is people rave about. I have never ran one of those, but I hear the pedal pressure is fantastic and it's a very smooth clutch, and it will obviously hold a butt ton of power. I think I covered pretty much everything I want to talk about. I'd be happy to discuss your setup and the options that you have for your truck if you give Long Range Gear a call. Our phone number is 509-499-0760. You can find our website, www.lrgdiesel.com. I post what seems like daily on Instagram on Long Range Gear, and we do have a Facebook that I ignore quite frequently at Long Range Gear as well. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.